everyone, and welcome to Daytona. Dave Despain with David Hobbs, kicking off the auto racing season here on ESPN. It's the 24 hours of Daytona, and David, we're into those last grueling hours now, and really only a single question seems to remain. Can the Nissan that has dominated this event find its way to the checkered flag?
Well, Dave, at this stage, I certainly hope so. Having led these races myself for 12 to 16 hours, I just know how horrible it can be and devastating, really, to finish, not finish the race after all that effort. And they really have led most of the time. So even though I don't know the guys concerned, I really do hope that they win this race, even though Lee Iacocca may think differently, of course.
Well, we're going to save that surprise for the end of the hour. And indeed, in this hour, we're going to work our way backward to that moment when all of these teams, all these cars, all these drivers were equal, when the green flag fell and everyone's hopes emerged. And in the course of that, we'll see not only how the race unfolded, but how, for many of these teams, their hopes have unraveled. We begin our retrospective of this international event with a reminder that this is the season opener for the regular IMSA Camel GT competitors, and that means Jeff Brabham launches his championship defense here in the GTP division. Cars from 1,600 to 2,100 pounds, engine capacity based on weight, ranging from 2.1 liters for the little Toyota to 3 liters with twin turbos for the Nissan here. In the Camel Light division, Parker Johnston killed them last year. Won 8 races. These machines similar in looks to the bigger GTP cars. They're basically downsized, non-turbocharged engines. They weigh a good bit less and do run 175 miles an hour here at Daytona. Also, the thundering production-based cars, the sedan series, Pete Halsmer winning what last year was called the GTO Championship. This year it has been renamed the GT Supreme or GTS division. Mazda coming out on top there a year ago. And in GTU, John Fergus mirrored Halsmer's achievements, winning the driver and manufacturer titles for Dodge last year. This is the class reserved for the under 3-liter cars. In all, tremendous growth for IMSA since 1969, when the first race drew 300 people and paid $3,000. This ESPN Speed World presentation is being brought to you by Rolex. View that period from noon to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is really the staging period for the finish. The period when we all wondered if this Nissan could continue the incredible pace it has run throughout this race. Right now, it's Kazuyoshi Hashino at the wheel. His co-drivers are Toshio Suzuki and Masahiro Hasimi. And David, they're not exactly household names in America, but they've sure done a heck of a job here.
Well, they certainly have. And Hasimi is a household name in Japan. He's won their national championship 6 times. And the aggregate age of these 3 drivers is a cool 127 years old. So there must be a lot of experience in that driver's seat.
No surprise to see Nissan out front. No surprise to see them challenged by Jaguar. Scott Goodyear currently running in the 2nd spot. And this is the lone Jaguar in the race, David.
Yeah, they had troubles in testing a couple of 3 weeks ago, so they decided to go with the one car with the V12 engine for longevity. It's only 11 laps behind at this stage in the race. Plenty of time for it to catch up, coming in for one of its final pit stops now.
Keep in mind that these cars must stop about every hour in this twice-around-the-clock grind to replenish fuel, of course, but also to run such routine maintenance as brake pad replacement every 4 or 5 stops. It really is, as Bob Aiken once called it, the systematic destruction of an automobile over a period of 24 hours.
There we see young Davy Jones getting into the car. And, of course, as you say, the systematic destruction. But, of course, these routine pit stops, all it needs is one of those wheel nuts to get jammed on the thread the wrong way around. And that 11-lap lead that the Nissan had, so this was the Nissan, would very, very soon evaporate. Davey getting snuggled down in the car there, plugging in all his systems, soup cooling, radio, water bottle, brakes there smoking a bit as they didn't change the pads on that stop. As you can see, he's got brand new tires. The stickers are still on the tires, so but these tires have never run. That's the sort of thing that could happen. You could have an odd-sized tire.
For team manager Tony Dow and his crew, this has been anything but a trouble-free 24-hour, and yet Davy Jones is on the verge of a major achievement that we'll be talking about in a moment. Meanwhile, 2 of the players in the game. On the right, the 98 Toyota, and on the left, the old 962 Porsches. And that Porsche in particular driven by Hurley Haywood, who is still a contender for the runner-up spot. That Porsche is, in fact, chasing the Jaguar for second, now driven by Ratzenberger, and P.J. Jones is at the wheel of the Toyota, and they are running 4th overall.
Well, it's been a bit of a mixed weekend for the Toyotas, but of course they are causing consternation amongst their rivals because they have never gone beyond 14 hours before, and they're still looking good. They had a couple of crashes in the night, some gearbox problems, but running very strongly, and of course the sister car was on the pole.
Imagine how tired these drivers are 21 hours into this race, and then feel some sympathy for Parker Johnstone, whose car simply stopped out on the racetrack, and the rules are very clear. Only the driver can get that car back home, and so he had to push it all the way to pit road, and then the crew could come and help, and Parker collapsed into the cockpit, and they were able to effect repairs on the car, which at that point had a huge lead. But it's just what you talked about, David. That huge lead can evaporate in a hurry if the car breaks. And that may very well be the story of this car as well. Robbie Gordon brings the Jack Roush Mustang onto pit road, the leader in the GTS class. But this was the beginning of a very long pit stop. The Roush team had built a big lead, attempting to win a remarkable 8th straight victory in the class.
It appears that we got enough laps completed that when there's a competition going like a minute, 20 seconds or something, we ought to be okay.
Winning streaks and dominance, very much a story of this Daytona. Mazda seeking its 11th consecutive victory in the GTU division, and Peter Uria looking for a 3rd straight win as the driver of this number 82 car. And behind them, David, the other Nissan, the more or less factory team color machine, but they've had trouble with electrical problems and blown engines, and really it's Uria and the Wendy's team.
Well, that's right. That's the 96 car that we just saw going out. The picture there is, in actual fact, 99 laps behind in 4th spot as they go up onto the banking there, making up some of that time, but a long way to go.
Mazda is currently dominant in the GTU class, but last year at Le Mans, they made their move into the big class, and of course, David Hobbs was there to cover the story for ESPN.
There we see the cars as the 24-hour, of course, a very different 24 hours at Le Mans to here. Daylight most of the time as opposed to dark so much here. There's the winning Mazda, surprised everybody. The 4-rotor engine, which we'll see in GTP competition in just 3 weeks' time down in Miami. One of the winners in that race, of course, is Bertrand Gachot. There we see them all up on the... Jackie Ickx was their team leader, a 6-time winner at Le Mans.
Mazda thus became the first Japanese manufacturer to win Le Mans. Nissan trying to do the same here at Daytona, and this is the Nismo Nissan. And let's make that distinction. This is not the team that has carried Jeff Brabham to 4 straight championships in IMSA. This is the all-Japanese factory effort, and Marty Reed called their final pit stop.
The number 23 Nissan making its last pit stop. The 2 drivers taking their time, congratulating each other a little bit early. This team has dominated from the start, never lower than 2nd, and they're about to bring this car home to victory after this last pit stop.
Marty Reed has patrolled pit road all night and will help us tell the story of how these teams reached the brink of victory when we come back. Flex 24 at Daytona. The long night's journey into day leaves your car looking like this, and the driver's feeling about like the car looks. That car set a record for pit stops here, I believe. The Jaguar at this point 3rd in the race, had not yet taken over that 2nd spot that had survived a night of significant difficulties, but now, David, really we're making a run at 2nd place.
Making a strong run with David Brabham at the wheel. He had a bit of an unfortunate incident leaving the pits and clipped the end of the guardrail, doing some damage to the car, but not too much.
Meanwhile, Hurley Haywood struggling over the wall as he hands off his car to Ija Elja. This is one of the 962 Porsches, and it wore Hurley out.
I mean, this even for us, it's a hard pace. You know, it's grueling, and I'm pushed. I'm glad when it's over.
Hurley won this race last year with a different team. It was his 5th 24-hour victory here, and that is the record. This car, the 962 Porsche, 11 years old. It's the George Foreman of international road racing. And look at this moment for the leader in traffic. And Dave, this is the worst night.
There you see that sort of thing there. We saw a big puff of smoke coming off somebody's tire. That will at least have caused at least a flat spot. And of course, anything can happen in that sort of a moment. We've got 3 distinct classes there, all going very, very different speeds. A great chunk of rolled up rubber there being kicked up into the air. The leader's got through it, and he's now out onto the west banking, all on his own.
Imagine how many times that happens in the course of a 24-hour race. on Sunday morning, we also enjoyed the heartwarming story of Mark Dismore. The Toyota team, talk about racing heritage. The car's owned by Dan Gurney and driven, among others, by the nephew of Juan Fangio and the son of Parnelli Jones. But Dismore was truly our hero in the Toyota camp. You remember Mark from Indy last year, the horrendous crash in turn 4, that moment of fear, of doubt, and then the remarkable news that Mark Dismore had survived this horrendous crash. From inside that tiny tub, he emerged and began the long recuperation. And this morning, all of those hours of therapy, all of that hard work paid off as Dismore got back in a race car.
Well, I feel good. I'm not trying to rush into it or set the world on fire. I just want to go out and get some more miles under my belt. I mean, I've basically had an 8-month layoff, and 8 months out of a car is a long time to be out of a car. So, you know, this is a perfect opportunity to get some miles.
He has a really big point there when they say he's been out of the car for 8 months. People, for some reason or other, expect race drivers to just get in and race, unlike tennis players and pianists who have to practice hour after hour.
Look at this problem for Bobby Aiken Jr. Remember, it was his dad who talked about the systematic destruction of a race car? Nothing systematic about that. Something broke in the suspension and left a tire lying on the racetrack, and the Jaguar had to dodge it and leave a little black mark of its own. Meanwhile, poor Rob Wilson came charging down the front straightaway and suddenly found his car filled with fire. Fuel line broke. He did the smart thing. He drove it straight into the wall to get stopped and then got out as quickly as possible. Full course yellow, David.
But of course, at this stage of the race can be a bit of a blessing for some guys. It can give them a moment's relaxation. On the other hand, of course, it gives you time to hear all sorts of knockings and rattlings from inside your car. There you see the lights up on the banking. And there's old Rob Wilson taking, as Bob Barsha calls, the long walk home, thinking, well, that's another one we didn't win.
And while the trials and travails of Daytona caught up so many others, the Nissan roared on at a record pace, a pace Hurley Haywood described as suicidal. Can the car hold together? Sunday morning, 12 hours of nighttime racing make this one of the toughest races in the world. Dan Gurney had breakfast with the Toyota crew, thrilled indeed that both of his cars had run to daylight. This was the best performance in terms of endurance driving ever for the Toyotas. For Dan Gurney, the 30th anniversary of his victory in the inaugural running of this race. It was a 3-hour back when he won it in 1962, and his car is performing very well here today, contending for 4th and 5th position, but perhaps more importantly, accumulating points toward the Drivers' Championship. Mark Dismore, already a hero, as we told you earlier. And David, here is a genuine position fight.
Headlights blazing even though the sun is well and truly up. The Jaguar number 2 there, trying to take on the car of Scott Brayton, 52, the Porsche 962, owned, of course, by Vern Schuppen, who had an example of his road-going 962 down at Daytona. I think they're going to cost about $1.3 million to put it on the highway. This was a race for position. Actually, the Jaguar at this stage is still 1 lap down, but as you can see, it's just a little bit quicker than the Porsche, and it was ultimately to pass it. Going through the chicane on the back straight. Very fast exit as they swoop up onto the east banking.
The Nismo Nissan, driven by the 3 Japanese drivers, extended its lead during the course of the night. Kazuyoshi Hoshino at the wheel as they hit daylight, and the interval at this point some 12 laps back to that second-place battle we saw just a moment ago. You're wondering, where are Jeff Brabham and Chip Robinson and the guys with whom we associate the name Nissan? You'll have to stay tuned to find out what became of them out there in the darkness. That big Nissan lead came in part at the expense of 2-time Le Mans winner Hans Stuck, and Marty Reed has his story.
What happened out there?
It was a nice day so far. Everything ran fine, and obviously all of a sudden the engine blew up with Frank Zielinski at the wheel. We don't know yet, maybe a rod broke or something. It's a pity because the car was in good condition so far, and to finish second place would have been possible. So we all don't like it, but let's racing.
Racing indeed. Watch the racing here as number 49 darts about trying to find a way around the 82. That is the Camel Lights leader in a bit of a tussle with the GTU leader at this point. Obviously, a lot of laps apart. What we want to do is review now all the cars that indeed survived the night to lead their classes. In Camel Lights, this Acura, the defending race champion and also the defending series champion, driven at the moment by Jim Basser, the test driver for Rick Gallis IndyCar program, dominating Camel Lights racing, and pursued here as they head into the morning by the number 44L, formerly the dominant car in this division. That is the Buick Kudzu, and Lon Bender is in control at the moment. And note that they are running 8th overall, comparing their performance with those of the larger and more powerful GTP cars. Third in the class, belonging to another of the Kudzus, John Grooms, at the wheel of the number 36 automobile.
Heaven forbid that A.J. Foyt should be watching. He doesn't like green racing cars. This, of course, is a Buick Kudzu, one of the other drivers being Jim Downing, manufacturer of these chassis.
In GTO, Dorsey Schrader continuing to dominate. He at the wheel of the Jack Roush Mustang, and again, the goal is an 8th consecutive victory. This car will not do the entire series, and there has been a lot of speculation about what is to become of GTS racing in 1992. Perhaps this car will emerge to dominate. It's an Oldsmobile. This particular Oldsmobile driven by Darren Brassfield of Trans Am fame, George Robinson and Jeff Klein. New entry, getting a little squirrely into the chicane, working on the handling, obviously, to get that car sorted out for what will be a season-long run at the GTS Championship.
The Robinson car's a factory entry. This number 21 is very much a private entry, driven by Robert Porters at the moment from Florida. A bunch of privateers are driving this car and doing very well. A Chevrolet Camaro running 3rd in the class at the moment and 22nd overall.
We move on to the GTU division. Al Bacon is now at the wheel of the little Mazda that dominates and is running 9th overall. That's quite good for GTU, but it also indicates the high attrition that we've seen thus far. Currently at the wheel of the little Mazda is Al Bacon. Al is a 2-time winner of the event. Good shot of him wheeling into the left-hander. He is also the defending champion, won last year in this car. They have a substantial lead over the car now driven by Eduardo Dibos. Co-drivers include his brother Juan and Raul Orlandini, a Peruvian and Floridian effort in second, and third belongs to Rob Wilson in happier times before the big fire that dropped that car out of 3rd spot in the division. As the little cars do battle at upwards of 150 miles an hour, the 210-mile-an-hour GTP car of Hurley Haywood is about to return to the track in 2nd place.
Over the 30 years of this race, the best sports car drivers in the world have stood in victory circle, but this driver, Hurley Haywood, has absolutely dominated, looking for his 6th win here in the 24 hours. But he's back in the familiar car Porsche and the familiar team Brumos. We spoke to him about the team earlier this week. At 43 years old, do you think you can make it through 24 hours with no problems?
David, it gets harder every year, believe me. I mean, when you're talking about driving a ground effects car for 24 hours, it puts a lot of abuse on the driver. And I stopped smoking, which I never thought I could do. I went to a hypnotist to do it. I hired a physical trainer that's been working with me for a month and a half. So you know, I'm trying to do everything I can just to try to help me get through 24 hours.
Including his 5 24-hour victories here, Hurley Haywood is the winningest driver at Daytona, but I wasn't surprised when he revealed his most satisfying win.
Well, I think that probably would have to be the very first time I won the 24-hour race. I won it with the late Peter Gregg. We were really the underdogs. I had never really been in an important race up to that point, and we were driving a factory car against Penske's crew with Donahue and George Fulmer, and we just did everything right, and we were a little bit quicker than they were, and we had a good battle, and something happened to them after about 14 hours, and we just cruised around. They had all the people from the Porsche factory there, so it was a real emotional, important win for me. So that's the one that sticks in my mind.
Haywood has remained loyal to Porsche throughout his career. As Executive Vice President of Brumos, that loyalty has paid off, not only on the racetrack, but in the boardroom.
From my standpoint, right now, because I'm involved with the dealership, what I do in a race car, I can directly see how that affects the sales in the showroom on Monday. So I'm in sort of a unique position that I'm able, through what I do behind the wheel of a Porsche race car, I'm able to see what that does in the total sales for Porsche. And I've had such a long career with Porsche that I really would like now to remain with Porsche and retire driving a Porsche.
After our little tete-a-tete, we had yet another Daytona award for Hurley.
Thank you. Hi, folks. I'm Ronald Hall, Lieutenant Colonel, Air Force Reserve, presenting another very special Air Force Reserve Commander's Performance Award. I'm at the Daytona International Speedway at Daytona, Florida, and the key word this weekend, I guess, is international, as the great drivers and teams from across the world gather for the 24 hours at Daytona. And with me, 5-time winner of the 24 hours at Daytona, defending champion, Mr. Hurley Haywood. And Hurley, the Air Force Reserve recognizes your excellence, wants to present this award to you. 28 career victories, 9 major championships, all-time endurance racer, point-wise. It's a great pleasure for me to be here and to present this award to you on behalf of the Air Force Reserve and the thousands of people that serve.
Thank you, Colonel. I notice on the bottom of this trophy it says leadership and excellence. I think those are really the keys to success in a 24-hour race, and I'm very grateful.
It'll be dark.
Perhaps the toughest part of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the midway point in the race, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the fatigue really begins to take its toll, David Hobbs.
On everybody, drivers and, as we can see here, crewmen alike. For the drivers, of course, they fluctuate in temperature terribly. Very hot in the car and very cool out.
Crews down there doing their work. We were in the Jack Roush pits when suddenly the calm was shattered by this. Unbelievable crash for Pascal Fabre, driving one of the 962 Porsches, the Courage Porsche. It is fair, I think, to speculate that something broke on the car at the fastest point on the racetrack, over 200 miles an hour, right at the start-finish line. The car hit the wall twice and then went into an unbelievable series of flips. And, of course, along pit road, the big concern, David, was for the safety of the driver.
Well, of course, these monocoque cars really are pretty strong. There's no doubt about it. A very strong driver compartment. But even so, at the middle of the night or any other time of the day, you certainly don't want to go bouncing down the road like that. There you see what's left of the car. This is a Courage 962, highly modified by Mr. Courage, who lives outside Le Mans and has always been a perennial runner at Le Mans.
Off to the hospital goes the driver, Fabre. Marty Reed was there.
We're just outside the medical center with Lionel Robert, co-driver on the team, and you have spoken to Pascal. What can you tell us?
Pascal is all right. His health is all right. The doctor checked his body, his arm, his legs. It's okay. But he hit the wall very hardly, 200 miles. The car is completely broken, but Pascal is okay. It's the main thing.
It truly is, because the integrity of the cockpit was still there, but the impact was just awesome, and thank you for bringing us the news.
Pascal said it's really awful. It's very long. He saw the cockpit. Everything was broken inside, but it's okay. He finished his spin upside down. He saw the fuel, the gasoline on him, and he was very afraid about that. And he said again, it was very, very long.
Did he say what caused the accident?
We can't be sure about that, but Pascal said maybe it's a tire. But you know, it's very, it happened very fast, and it can't be sure about that. Maybe a tire.
Well, we're just glad he's okay. Thanks.
Okay.
With that Porsche in pieces, perhaps a changing of the guard story here. The Nissan on pit road for a precision pit stop, and just down pit road a short distance, the Jaguar coming in to make a stop as well. These are the new powerhouses at Daytona. Porsche has won this race 18 times. Jaguar is next on the victory list with 2. But in recent years, it is Jaguar and Nissan who have emerged as the challengers. And here they are on pit road together, David.
Taking the bodywork off the front of this car. It's all pretty routine, this. Spraying the Jaguar windscreen there. Did you see that rather slick thing they had hanging out over the Jag screen? He's already put it in gear here. You can see that he started to pick up speed. That's a bit, he must be careful with that. I mean, he could just break the old drive shaft. It wouldn't go down too well with the hierarchy back in Tokyo.
And so the Japanese lead the race. But the interesting development right here, the Momo Porsche just 1 lap off the pace. Very consistent and threatening here to pull off yet another victory. But look here, the door hinge stuck. Hans Stuck couldn't keep the door closed, had to bring the car back on pit road, the proverbial $2 part. And now we're going to Marty Reed for a report on haute couture, high fashion. Except when you go to the Jack Roush pits, naturally that comes out hat couture.
I don't know if you can see my breath. It's like 39 degrees. You want to get an idea? I mean, I don't normally wear a hat when we're working pit lane or 3 layers of clothing. Take a look at this. Max, where did you get this thing?
Well, I laid down in the back there just to take a little 5-minute nap, and Jack had one of his famous hats, and I woke up with it on, so I thought I'd keep it on. It's nice and warm, so.
Well, this is what happens when you have a 60-lap lead. You know, I asked Jack if you guys were going to stop with like 2 hours to go and just sort of wait till the last 15 minutes because you could then just start it up and still win.
No, I don't think we will. I sure would like to try to win this thing overall. There's still a bunch of them in front of us, but we'll keep running this right along there and see how far we can get up there.
Well, do me a favor. Don't try and drive the car with that hat.
Well, no way.
All right, we mentioned at the top that we'll see hopes unravel. It's o'clock on Saturday evening, the sun setting and the Nissans leading. Nissans plural, the number 23 Nissan you've seen a lot of as we work our way backward through the race. Hasemi, the driver at this juncture of the Nismo Nissan, Nissan Motorsports International. They went out and set a fast pace.
Well, Hasemi has certainly set this race off at a fast clip, lapping at about 1:42, 6 seconds quicker than Hurley Haywood really wanted him to lap. Of course, I drove with young Mr. Hasemi, who's a cool 46 years old now, back in Kyalami in about 1981.
And now we're going to get a look at the other 2 Nissans, the 2 Nissans more familiar to you IMSA fans. That is not Jeff Brabham, that is Gary Brabham running in 5th, Jeff's brother. Chip Robinson behind him. In 2nd place in the race, though, actually behind Brabham on the racetrack. These are the cars that have dominated Camel GT racing the last 4 years, but they're in fact different cars from that Nissan out front, David.
Well, these are IMSA GTP cars. They have a 3-liter engine maximum. They can have twin turbos. They're 2,000 pounds, and they can carry more fuel. They can carry 40 gallons, US gallons of gas. The Nismo car, the Japan car, is a Group C. It can be a bigger engine, but it can only carry 100 liters of fuel. In international competition, normally they have to fuel slower than they do with these IMSA cars, but not here. But they do carry less fuel, they have a little bit more power, and so, of course, they will have to stop more often than these IMSA GTP cars.
Perhaps most significantly, the GTP cars are eligible for Camel points. The Japanese Nismo team running for race glory, but not eligible for points here. In fact, they're here to get ready for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Quick update on the lights division at this point. This is the Acura running in a traffic jam, but holding a big lead in that division early, a lead that they would attempt to protect throughout the night. That was originally a potent 2-car effort, but Jim Basser and Dan Marvin, Parker Johnstone, and Ruggero Malgrati found themselves going it alone when the sister car failed to make it through the night. In the GTS division, Nissan running very strong at this point, though they too would have problems in the darkness. That car had the lead with the team car running 2nd as the fans tried to find their way to the exit here. Everybody trying to get out and go find a good place for dinner. But for the 84 car, the Nissan GTP machine, big problems. Gary Brabham slapped the wall, exiting the pit, and hit hard enough to actually bend the tub and drop this car out of the race. Bad break for big brother Jeff Brabham, who was hoping to come out of here with championship points. There seemed to be a rash of this sort of problem. Moments later, David Brabham did exactly the same thing driving the Jaguar. The consequences a little less severe. First time the three brothers had actually driven together in the same race, Marty Reed caught up with David and asked him about the unfortunate outcome.
David, I know you brothers are competitive, and I guess you and Gary now have a story that you can sort of swap.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened to Gary, but I went into that corner where you can't exit the pits, and I thought I'd slowed down enough, and I turned in. I got a feeling there may be some debris or something there on the road because it just slid on straight on. Probably happened the same thing to Gary, but I'm not sure.
Not long after the Brabham misadventure, full course yellow. Phil Mayer, the Olympic skier turned race car driver, spun on the track. The engine died. He was hit by Jim Pace. Ken Parschauer plowed in. A massive three-car pileup. The good news is the drivers were all okay. And then the 75 car, which had taken the lead in the GTS division, went to the pits. Broken oil line. The new leader with Marty Reed.
You, at one point, guys were like 4 or 5 laps behind, and now it looks like you're going to have the lead.
Yeah, you know, we made up a few laps when I was driving, and just driving the car conservative, and you know, that's the game plan here at Roush Racing. Jack's got good leashes on all of us. He's got those choke collars on us, and you know, we just drive around in 54s and 55s all night long, and I think we'll be okay as long as it keeps running.
Now, remember hopes unraveled? Say goodbye to the last of the GTP Nissans, Brabham, Robinson and company. The engine blew on the Brabham car. He's out of the race, and Marty Reed is with Cass Kasdan.
8.5 hours into the race, and both your cars are now out. What happened to the 83?
Apparently the engine went away. Jeff had just done his 3rd lap and 4th lap, and as he was going up onto the banking, all of a sudden there was a big judder.
You weren't showing any signs of trouble before that?
Absolutely not at all. It was just, you know, it was just running great. Just running great. We had almost 2 laps lead, and just made the pit stop, added the oil at the at the right time and all of that, and it just went away.
Well, when it comes to this race, if you didn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck at all.
I suppose.
Well, better luck next time.
Thanks very much.
The American-based Nissans are history. The all-Japanese Nissan team carries the load alone. It was 30 years ago that Dan Gurney won the first running of Daytona sports car races. It was called the Daytona Continental, and he won it by grinding the starter motor to get past the checkered flag. He reenacted that moment here at Daytona in 1992 to kick off the Rolex 24. One of the legends of American motorsports, Dan Gurney, now the owner of the pole-sitting car. The Toyota, driven by Juan Fangio, set fast pace, but look there, David Hobbs, a hole outside row 1.
A hole that should have been filled by a Jaguar, but unfortunately had a mechanical malfunction in the morning warm-up and decided to withdraw the car. And those 30 years ago, I too was driving in a Jaguar XKE along with Dan Gurney in that race.
The rest of the field stacked up behind the Jag was expected to go out in a hurry, not unlike last year when we saw this action early on. Watch Ari Leyendijk in the Nissan. Definitely the rabbit in this field, carving his way through the early race traffic, setting some of the fastest laps of the race. That car was never intended to go the distance, and indeed, it retired early. A similar fate befell the Jaguar of Davy Jones, who tried to match pace with the Nissan early on, and that car did not last the race. But this year, as we've already seen, they've taken a more conservative approach that may pay off with success. And thus, we come back to the start of this 30th running of this great race. General Chuck Yeager takes the pace car onto pit road, Grand Marshal for this event. The green flag falls, and the field head off to begin the 1992 racing season.
And what an absolutely perfect day they had for it, too. Temperature in the 60s, clear, no clouds in sight, weather forecast perfect, light breeze. Could not be better for racing. The cars at the moment, absolutely pristine. All clean and tidy, drivers, nice new uniforms, no bad smells emanating from the cars. What a difference it'll be in another 24 hours.
We have seen how this race has unfolded and unraveled for most of these competitors, but hopes were all high here on lap number 1 as Fangio took the Toyota to the point, and that Japanese Nissan settled right onto its tail in a preview of what we were to see throughout much of the 24 hours of action. For Dan Gurney, hopes very high for that Toyota. It debuted late in 1991 and became an instant winner with 2 victories at the end of the season. In third spot early, the Momo Porsche, and then comes that yellow Nissan. Now, this is another of the European spec Nissans, driven by an international driver lineup, and right on his heels early on, that Jaguar setting an early pace.
Now, this Jaguar, of course, has got the V12 engine, a bigger engine, 6.5 litre. But, of course, they put that engine in for longevity. The one that failed to make the start, of course, was the V6 turbo.
On lap 1-1, Fangio setting the pace into the chicane, having broken the track record in qualifying. But we had the feeling early, David, that Masahiro Hasimi definitely had that Toyota in his sights as they went up onto the banking.
Well, the Nissan seems to have tremendously long legs. It's hugely fast as it comes onto this front straightaway, although the Toyota, of course, certainly got the job done in qualifying. Obviously had a lot of boost and was absolutely blisteringly quick around the track. But there you see the superior top speed of the old Nissan as it drags itself by at about, probably early on in this race, the temperature like it is, 215 miles an hour.
That was a picture that really set the tone for the race. The Nissan taking it by the throat early, but look at this international field of cars and drivers that kicked off the season. Next, the finish. The bystanders are checking their watches. We have come full circle back to the moment with which we began the hour, the closing moments of this, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Dick Greer leading the GTU division, heading down for the finish for Mazda's 11th consecutive victory in the class and Greer's second straight. And I think the remarkable thing about this, David, is that they will win the class by 100 laps.
Pretty mind-blowing for the rest of the competition, there's no doubt about it. The car is from Columbus and, of course, sponsored by Wendy's.
In the GTS division, remember when we saw the Whistler Mustang pull onto pit road, we commented it would be a long pit stop. They spent 3 hours waxing the car. They didn't work on it very much because the engine had blown up. But the remarkable thing is, after they got it all polished up, they pushed it into victory circle. They had enough lead in the Roush Mustang with 3 hours remaining to win the race. Jack Roush's 8th straight class victory. And remember Parker Johnstone being pushed along pit road? That could have been a disastrous end for the Camel Light story. In fact, the story had a happy ending. They found the problem. It was electrical and quickly fixed, and they were able to put Steve Cameron back in that car and send it back out for its second consecutive Daytona victory. That is the dominant team in Camel Lights.
And there you see Steve Cameron going on his merry way, a smoking Porsche 911 in front of him. A bit of smoke coming out the left rear corner of the Acura, but no matter. They also had a big lead too, and they could have stopped at this point if they'd wanted to.
And that leaves the premier division of IMSA racing, the big guns, the big cars, the 210-mile-per-hour machines. Toshio Suzuki drew the honor of taking the Nismo Nissan past the checkered flag, the team that came from Japan and brought, listen to this, 3 garages full of equipment to Daytona. They arrived here before the 1st of January. They spent millions upon millions of yen creating this effort and absolutely dominated the race.
Well, of course, the Japanese are incredibly committed people. They wanted to do well in motorsport. They wanted to do well with their street cars, and they have now achieved most of their targets. Nissan have been wanting to win one of these 24-hour races for a long time. They have finally done it. Mazda won the 24-hour race last year. Mazda keep winning the classes here. Acura win the class, and of course in Formula One, Honda is supreme. There we see Davy Jones in second place. His team manager, Tony Dow, shaking hands with the Japanese crew in charge of the Nismo car, the lead car.
Those two cars had pitted side by side and developed a bit of a relationship. We become friends after 24 hours. That is the moment of concession, the moment in which the second place team conceded that indeed no one could beat the Nismo Nissan on this Sunday afternoon. And so the only question, who all will be in the checkered flag photograph? Hurley Haywood moves his Porsche up on the outside of the Nissan to share the honors. He, the 5-time winner here at Daytona.
And even though Toshio Suzuki is going to take the Nissan over the line, it must be the highest moment of Hasimi's life. He's been driving for Nissan as a factory driver since the early 1960s, and this must be his greatest international achievement as he sees this car take the checkered flag.
For the 30th time, the checkered flag falls on a sports car classic at Daytona. For the first time, the victory has gone to the Japanese. A victory circle should be a hoot. Put in a call to the interpreters. We'll have a whole lot more from Daytona when we come back. We'll meet these 3 Japanese fellows who have just won this classic race. We'll also hear why Davy Jones has so much reason to celebrate.